Hello, and welcome to another broadcast of Game Guru, live Twitch broadcasting with your host, me, Lee Bamber. And today I'm going to do a nice, short and sweet Twitch. It won't be the usual hour-long marathon that you have to sit through. It will be a nice, short Twitch, just to show you the latest, greatest version, my internal version that I'm working on right now, and I want to show you some of the bits and bobs. Now, it's nothing spectacular. It's not 15 wonderful features you've never seen before. It's a rather grueling feature that we had been putting off for quite a while, but as the community voted it as number one thing, it was about time we actually sat down and implemented it, and it is just an absolute worm, a can of worms, a rat nest, whatever you want to call it. But we've got through it, and now we're nearly at the end. There's just a few little tweaks to do, but before I get to that final release, which will include some other features that I may talk about a little bit later, this will be the crux of the next major update, which will be 1.13. I have to keep correcting myself not to call it 1.3. It's not 1.3, it's 1.13, which means 1.2 is far in the future. So it's 1.13, followed swiftly by 1.14. So hopefully I won't confuse anyone with these versioning names. So I'm going to jump straight to it. I have a dev folder here, which I use. I'm going to launch. You'll notice it was 1.13-B1. That indicates beta 1. Now, it's still an internal version, but as soon as this beta 1 is finished and I'm happy with it, then I'm going to proceed to issue a beta version for all my beta testers who are out there who contribute and help me with little bug reports and things like that. So the big feature that is 1.13 is, of course, the save and load progress, and I'm going to show you how that works. So I'm going to create a simple level. This is where we'll start, and maybe this is where we will end, and we'll put a little win zone down. So if you enter inside anywhere inside this polygon, then you will win the game. Hooray. And maybe we'll have a little path to show you how to complete the level. But if you go from there to there, then you've won the game. But really, it's just a quick level that I've knocked up, and I'm just going to knock it out. I'm going to call it something like Lee's New Game. Not much of a game, but certainly a basic level. And I've saved it. It's underscore Lee New Game. I'm going to do the usual thing. Go to Save Standalone. And as anyone familiar with Game Guru knows, what this does, it takes your level, any game that you may have made inside that level, and it will create a standalone executable. And this folder that includes the exe can be shared, it can be sold. No royalties, no license fees, nothing like that. You can do whatever you want with it, customizing it, sell it, anything you like. But it never had a save and load feature. But what I mean by that is you can play your game, you can get to like level 8, but as soon as you run out of lives or whatever the game says that you've lost, then you have to start from level 1. It's really terrible. So wouldn't it be great if you could save your progress as you went? In fact, nearly all games now you can save your progress. You would need to. Some games go for 200 and 300 hours of gameplay. So people wanted that, so that's what we've added. So you've seen me, I've saved the standalone executable. It's in Game Guru Files My Games. And now I'm going to jump to my standalones folder. You can see I've got some different things going on. That's the one we've just created, Lee's New Game. So we can run that executable. Now there's a couple of things I want to mention. I think I have done a Twitch broadcast in the past which sort of showed you another work in progress, an earlier version of the work in progress. And for those who didn't see that Twitch broadcast, I'll briefly mention the fact that these menus are no longer hard-coded. They're actually using Lua script. So you can use Lua scripting if you want to. It's not mandatory, but if you want to, it's optional. You can change these scripts to whatever you want. So you can have more buttons, less buttons, animations on the screen, other things you can click. You can do whatever you want. Change the mouse arrow, change the backdrop, change the foreground, anything you like. So you can put instructions to your game if you like. But this is the new one. Before you just had start, about and quit game. Now we've inserted load game in the main menu. Load game is also in the game itself, in the in-game menu, and also save game when you're in the game. So if we just start the game like so. I say a game, I must apologise, it's not a game. It's just a couple of blobs on the floor with a start and an end. So this is where we started. We run along the path. Remember that zone we placed down as soon as we enter it. The standalone detects that, and then you've completed. And this screen, even though it just looks like one of these blank screens, left it deliberately generic, deliberately blank, so you can put whatever you want there. And notice it's slightly shimmering. I don't really see that on Twitch, but it's slightly shimmering, so you can actually know that it's a live backdrop and you can do animations and stuff like that. And then when you've read congratulations, you've won the game, you press continue, and then you're back to here. But we're going to do this again now, but now we're going to use the power of my save and load feature. Go to start. And then what we can do is press escape. This time, let's see, let's just resume the game a bit. Let's say we wanted to look up at the sky. Save the game. Put it in an empty slot. There's 10 slots. Now, as I said, all these are scriptable. You can change these scripts however you want. I've just set 10 slots. You can have more or less. It's up to you what you want for your game. So choose slot 1, and then we've saved that. And let's say we have another one. So we look at the floor. Save game. Put that in slot 2. You've now saved that. So if we run over here outside of the circle, so we're well away from it. Now we press escape, load game, and go to the first one. We find ourselves looking at the sky. And if we go to the second one, look at the floor, and back in the circle. That's a very, very simple example. Quite a lot of things had to be done to save and load. I'm going to delve a little bit into that, just so you know the horrible pains I had to go through, and the fact that there's only a very little left remaining to be done before it's perfect. Oh, and in case you haven't seen these before, graphic settings, you can change the shader quality, your field of view. You can also change the sound levels, sound effects, and the music within your game, so on and so forth. If we go back to the main menu, and then about, like I said, and then you can quit the game. Like so. But I won't click that yet. What I want to also show is not only can you load a game progress from within the game, you can load it from this main menu. So if I click load and select that one, that will be these, when we looked at the sky, so it will load in the level and then it will set you up from that position. If we come out of the game completely, go back to load and second one. Now one thing you'll notice between this version and if you cast your mind back 5 years to FPS Creator Classic, when we had save and load there, when you loaded in your game, it would actually reset the level. It would load the entire contents of the level again, and then the game progress. So a load step could take minutes, however big the level is, which was hugely wasteful. What I wanted to do this time around was make sure it only loads in the changes, and it only refreshes the bits of the game that needed refreshing. Which means, of course, it's practically instantaneous to load in your progress. The only time it wouldn't be instantaneous is if you saved your game on level 2, you progressed to level 3, and then you loaded in a position to go back to level 2. In that particular case, it has to load in all the level data for that previous level. So that's where you get the proper delay. And what I mean by delay is, if I did load game and that, it have to load in level 1, you see. So this loading page has to hit, so it can load all the graphics in. And I'll show you the magic behind it. This is the standalone folder. Now, just want to mention, because I've noticed this in some of the forum feedbacks, some people just zip this executable up. You know, they go to here, they create a zip, and then they share that with the friends. You know, 2 meg, easily shareable over email, very fine and wonderful. Problem is, that's just the stub. That's just the executable that has the engine core code in it. It has none of the graphics. All the graphics are inside files, so you need to include all those as well. You also need all these here. These are all the support app files that the executable will need to know where it is in the universe. So what you need to do if you want to share this is go out one folder and then zip up the entire folder, not just the executable. And you'll see this is slightly larger than 2 megabytes. Because, you know, these days graphics require higher resolution textures, more geometry, more sounds, Just more of everything, basically. So that very simple terrain running around, you might think, well, there's not much there. But actually, there's lots of stuff you never thought about, like the clouds and the sky, you know, and the different textures for the terrain, even though you didn't see them. They're actually there, and you can actually paint them in the editor, and then it won't take any more time to load, but those extra textures are there. And plus all the sounds and everything else. And all the supporting data files as well. So instead of 2 meg, it's 158 meg, which you cannot email. For situations like that, you'd want something like Google Drive to actually upload this file, and then you can share it publicly so people can download and play your executable. And that's Save Standalone, and that's where you'll find the Save Load Progress feature for Game Guru. Now, I just wanted to mention to those who are watching this in video land, this is actually a live Twitch session, which means we've got people who can post live questions on a separate window that I can see but you can't see. And I do invite people to ask questions if they have any as I ramble on for the next half an hour. And I see that there is already one question, or at least an observation from Sparrowhawk. But I just want to mention that I accidentally toggled off the Twitch TV chat stuff. So anything up to 10 minutes ago, I've lost. I accidentally pressed a button and it wiped them all out. So if there was a question that you were asking and you're waiting for me to respond to it, could you just type that out again, please? And I can answer them for you. Because what happens is my mouse moves around a lot and I accidentally wipe out the other window. Not deliberate, but I just wanted to make you aware that if there's an important question, it needs answering, then I need to see it again. So, what have we got? Sparrowhawk asks, it would be good if eventually all the files and stuff became self-contained, like a Vishnu Packer for Classic. Yeah, the reason I've not done it now is I think you'd rather have me adding new Game Guru features and going through the voting board and adding all those. And if you wanted to pack it all into one file, there are other programs out there that do it. Not saying I'm not doing it, I'm saying I'm doing it at a certain time. And then once all the game features are done and all the editor features are done and everything's rosy, and no one can really complain that, you know, Game Guru is missing anything substantial, yes, no problem. I can grab all them and make it into one huge packed executable, and then it's just one file you can share. But as there are other solutions out there in the world, no sense reinventing the wheel unless there's literally nothing left to invent. So that's why you're not seeing it already. Retro Game Blow asks, has the way levels work changed? The way levels work? No, not particularly. It's pretty straightforward. You've got a win zone, which wins the game. If you tapped out level 2 like this and clicked apply changes, and then you save a level, call it underscore level 2 like this, just make sure that that's absolutely the same thing, so it's underscore level 2. Now what happens, oh obviously that's level, so yeah, let's not confuse everyone. You have to go to the original, which would be, what did I have it, Lee's New Game. Yeah. So what would happen is I'm on level 1, Lee's New Game has a win zone, and inside the win zone it says win zone and then if used underscore level 2. And essentially what that would do is when you get through into this zone, it will load level 2 and then you can play level 2. So I can show you that right now. If I just save that to make sure it's right, and then just for the avoidance of doubt, i.e. you'll know it's a different level, if I load in level 2, I'll change the terrain a little bit just so you know you're somewhere else. So big rocky floor, get rid of that. Maybe you have some entities this time, maybe some big barrel, extract it, make it static. So the world of barrels, and that's going to be level 2. In order to make standalone executables with 2 levels, all you need to do is make sure that you're at level 1. The first level, the initial level for your game, like so, and then you just save and standalone from there. And what it does is pretty cool. It scans level 1 to see if there's any references to another level. If it finds a reference to another level, it includes that in your standalone executable. Then it takes that level and it scans that level to see if there's any references to any other level, and then it adds that. So basically it adds any level that you've referenced in any of the levels and backs them all into the safe standalone. And then it's your win zones and your other scripts that let you move between those levels, either linearly or non-linear, so you can actually basically walk through gates into different worlds. It's entirely up to you. That's your choice. It's always worked like that. I don't know whether there's a specific thing you're asking, but that's kind of how it works. But for those who didn't know that you could actually have multiple levels, you notice that was 158. If we zip this one up again, it should be bigger, you see, because we've now got 2 levels and we've got them barrels. So it should be slightly bigger now. Doop-a-doop-a-doo. 158, and it's probably about 500k bigger. But the way you confirm that it's got another level, you go to map bank and you actually see it's got that first level, it's also got the second level. And if we go to entity bank, you'll see that it's got the barrel, albeit encrypted, there. So now we can run, and I can prove it. I can prove it by running into that rocky area again. But instead of it just winning the game, it will actually load level 2. Bop, 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 bop. So we go to start game. Now remember, this is my beta. This is 1.13-beta 1. It could very well be that version 1.121, which is the one on Steam right now, has a bug which is preventing you from doing what I'm actually showing you right now. So if we run here, it leaves level 1. You see a loading page, loads in level 2, which is the massive barrels version. Naturally, well, I didn't put a win zone in here, so you won't be able to end this. All you can really do is, well, you can't even do that. Another thing as well, when you're doing safe standalone and then you change the game radically and then you do safe standalone again, bear in mind it won't delete the safe standalone folder, i.e. it won't be deleting any old save games. So if you want a fresh version of your standalone, good idea to delete that and then do safe standalone. The reason I haven't done this automatically is you may only be making small changes to your standalone game and you want to keep your safe positions. I find, as I've been working on save load, the safe positions is a really good way to reproduce bugs. So if there's like a bug 10 minutes into the level, I can save the level at 9 minutes and then I have to do another like 30 seconds in order to get to the thing I want to reproduce and fix. So it's really good for that, which is why I've left it in. You might want to keep your game save positions when you're working on your standalone, which is why it's been left in. Which is why I'm not going to load it, because it won't make any sense. But what I can do is save a new one. So in this second slot, I'll save level 2. Then I'll go back to the main menu. I want to show you something else if I can remember about the main menu. And this is level 1. Let's say we come over here to one side. Look at that, and we'll call that level 1. Now, if I load in this one, which remember was from level 2, it will fade it out. It knows it's a different level, so it has to load that level in, and then it loads him in that position. If I press load and go to the first one, remember that was level 1, off to one side, fades it out, it loads back in level 1, and then it brings that up, and now you're looking at it from where you was. So the magic of save and load, and in a very efficient, fast version of save and load on the same levels, and then it loads in the full level when you have to switch levels back and forwards. Now I say it's not entirely complete because there is a small issue with characters that spawn and then die, and then when you reload them it isn't quite keep up with that spawn sequence, and I just need to add a few little lines in order to make that happen. But one thing I did want to mention whilst we're on the subject of save standalone is a flag called, here we are, allow fragmentation. It's a brand new one. You'll see it in 1.13, and essentially what that does, you'll notice that when you've got your standalone and then you press quit game or main menu and then you have to wait ages, what you're waiting ages for is it's deleting the old executable and it's relaunching the game executable in the special flag, which then gets you back to the main menu without seeing the splash screen again. That's why it takes so long. That's done to eliminate all memory fragmentation between game sessions. Thus people don't run out of system memory as they play games hour after hour after hour. Now, if you change the flag from allow fragmentation to 1, and I'm thinking of making this the default, it doesn't do that. It simply ends the game, and then it moves straight back to the main menu, which makes it practically instantaneous, which is great for testing your standalone games much quicker than waiting for it to reload all the time. So I'm making that the default, so it's a faster experience, but just be aware that fragmentation has been allowed to creep back in with this. So if you want to have it the old way, i.e. the way of 1.1 or 1.11, just set that back to 0 and you'll have it the way it was before. So just returning to the questions, have I deleted it again? I certainly hope not. Right, I don't think I have. I do think I've just maximised it. Yeah. What are we doing here? Okay, I'm looking for questions. What I might have done is clicked something on the chat session, which has got rid of the chat window. I'm sure that's possible, but when it's unintentional, and then you have to try and find out what the chat. Oh, it is, a little icon there. Oh no, that's not it. Is it? No, that's a whisper. It said something very odd, so I don't know what that meant. Right, got me questions back. So hopefully Retro Game Bloke, that rather long-winded approach answered the questions. Has levels work, as the way levels work changed? No, it's always been like the way I've just demonstrated. Malboys asks, it would be nice if you could see how many % your sound is on and how much your FOV is on in numbers. I suppose by that you mean if we go and run a standalone game again. At the moment, as I recall, it's really just a slider, with a full slider being 100% and an empty slider being 0%, and you're asking for a number, so yucky. Right, here we go. Escape. Sounds levels. Yeah, so instead of it just being a slider like this, you want it with some sort of number, and maybe same with on the graphic settings with FOV. You see, I relied more on visuals, less is more. So by actually seeing the FOV, you can sort of see what you're happy with, and I think I'll have that one, and then you go back to the game with the perfect FOV. But yeah, if there's more people asking for an additional number, we can throw that in by default. But remember, of course, all these are in scripts now, so you can actually add your own number if you want to. It becomes less about what I've chosen for you and more about what you want to do, and you can go in and modify the scripts. Or if you can't script, go onto the forums. Lots of really cool scripters out there, and they might be able to help you change these once 1.13 gets released. But yeah, certainly an idea. If a lot of people want it, I don't mind making it the default. It's not too difficult to add. Retro Game Block says, I've had no luck getting it to work in standalone with more than one level this update. That probably indicates that 1.121 has a bit of an issue with saving out multiple levels, so I apologise for that. The update that's coming out in less than 10 days, I think this is going to be out in less than 10 days, will actually have this fix in. There is a shortcut, I think. If you do find that you're only saving out one level, which is pretty you can get a bit distraught over that, simply just copy the FPM files into your mapbank folder of your standalone, and it should work. Another way, because I know why the bug may have been introduced, another way is to put all your levels, that's level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, in a subfolder. And what I mean by that is, I'll actually show you how the Easter game is laid out on Steam. If you look at mapbank, you've got an Easter folder. The Easter folder has Easter game, which is level 1, then level 2, 3, 4 and 5. So I actually had to modify the save standalone so it would detect these files, because they weren't in the root anymore, you see, they were inside a subfolder. But in changing that, I may have introduced a thing which messed it up for people who had their files quite sensibly in the root folder. So all you need to do is create a subfolder, drop all your files into that subfolder, load in the first level from there, and then do save standalone. You should get all your levels back. So worth trying that out until version 1.13 comes along. Sparrowhawk, could you script in a warning if you're overwriting an existing save slot? Oh, you mean like by accident? Well, I figured because it either said empty or it had something in it, you'd know he was overwriting. I can only imagine you mean if you did it by accident. I mean, literally, you only get one opportunity to click that button, and if you accidentally clicked it, oop, you've just lost your save. So if I start, and then I do a save once I'm on, and let's say I wanted to keep that second slot because it's on level 2, and I accidentally go save, and then click that, boom. There was no opportunity for me to go, oh, I didn't want to save slot 2, I meant slot 3. Yeah, it could be a little bit distraught. Okay, if anyone reads this and in the next couple of days says, yes, you absolutely need some confirmation dialogue, then I will add that in. I want to do sort of a less is more strategy. I'll throw in enough that it's functional and it works and it can't offend anyone because there's so little there. And then if people want to see things that they're clearly missing, and a lot of people are saying the same sort of things, then I'll add it, no problem. But I really just want to start off with the less I implement, the less I can get wrong, and you know it's going to work. It's like, you know, something that's only got one button is easy to test. You know it's going to work. It only does one thing. You press that button. If I had 50 buttons, you've got 50 combinations that you have to compare against each other. Testing time is ridiculous. More likely to find an error or a functional issue creeping into your build, which I'm sure you don't want, which is why I'm going for the strategy of less is more. But certainly email me, post it on the Steam or on the Game Guru forum if you absolutely desperately, totally need a confirmation dialogue popping up, because it can be a little bit distraught if you just saved over the wrong slot. Retro Game Block asks, is there a way to prevent the camera zooming in on the player in 3D for certain items, per set something like occluder equals 0? Yeah, I think I know what you mean there. Let's see if I can set up that example so people know what we're talking about. The idea is that in addition to first person, which you've been seeing so far, you can also have a third person. Now currently it's only set on the wizard because he's been specially designed for third person, but I'll be extending it to all characters. So just move a wizard onto the start marker and you'll see a little text attached for third person control. Dink. And then you normally have the certain kinds of trying to think something big, something we can walk underneath. Maybe this. Yep. Okay. This, I mean, this is just a really rough idea, but let's see if it works. Okay, so we've got. This is the system. What happens is, in third person mode, you've got a character which can walk around, but watch what happens when the camera is interfered with a wall. It actually moves the camera closer to the character, so the wall's not in the way. Can you imagine the horror if the camera didn't zoom in? You would basically have the wall in the way, and you just wouldn't see the character. But there are situations, you know, where you don't want the camera zooming in. And actually we have that implemented. That is actually implemented. I'm going to show you how to do it now. If you click on the combo of the start marker and the character and go to properties, you have all these third person settings. Camera lock, distance, X, Y, focus, speed. Now if we change the distance to 300, you notice now the distance between the camera and the player has now been set back. But look at the Y offset. This is a really cool one. If I set that to 300, zoom, it moves up. If I set it to 400, almost top down. And if we set it to 500, which should clear the top of that door construction, and then apply those changes and run, in theory, I am saying theory because this is live and unscripted. Now what I also don't like is the camera. You see, normally in, say for example, Grand Theft Auto, you want this sort of two-axis moving around and seeing everything, but we don't. What I intended was a sort of a top-downy view. So what you can do is do what's called camera lock. So set that to yes, Run it again. Dink. So now it's not 2-axis, it's 1 axis. So axis is around the Y, but you can't like move it on the X axis up and down. So you've got this nice top-down perspective. Now, can you imagine before we was talking about the camera, that if you walk behind something and the camera zooms in, you know, it's great to see the character, but it might mess up your perspective. This is the perfect example of that, because we don't really want, you see, we want to keep our game perspective. And the way that works, it's automatic at the moment. But the good news is this whole thing is going to be externalized as Lua script, so you'll be able to change it to whatever rule you want. But the rule basically is, if you're looking more down on the character than looking forward on the character, it has a special condition which says, in the situations where it's a top-down game, don't zoom the camera in, because there's no point. Now, I suppose, Retro Game Bloke, what you're asking is, well, can we have control of that right now? So even if, and I'll just take the point of setting that to say back to 100, where it won't be top-down anymore, but the camera's still locked. I suppose what you're asking for is I'll be able to see the camera's still locked. I'm moving the mouse up and down, but it's not doing anything. But still, when I walk behind there, it zooms in. You see? The reason I've really not put a lot of energy into exhaustively adding to all these properties is that ultimately these properties are going to be substituted for a Lua script and a Lua GUI interface, where it will be the same sort of values on the editor, but it will be sort of it'll be more similar to this widget, where you can actually change values and sliders and things like that from here. So you can change the camera in real time using these really cool sort of 3D overlay things, rather than having to use this horrid sort of 2D Windowsy way of setting properties. Plus, it also means you can add any rules you want within the script. You don't have to stick to the presets that I've set. So basically it's about, should I spend time adding another property here only to have to throw it away because I'm rewriting the whole Lua script and then creating a Lua GUI with a whole completely new set of properties for it. So that's really the reason why it's not in there now, and I'm resistant to adding it in the next couple of versions, so hopefully that makes sense. But if there's a lot of people that say, we absolutely need full camera locking control, then fair enough, I can sneak it in. It's just, it's like, it's sort of, it's a dead-end task. Whether it takes 1 hour or 3 hours, and maybe an hour of testing, those 4 hours I'll never get back again. I'll have just thrown them away, because I'm rewriting it all in Lua script. That's kind of why. So scrolling down the chat window, seeing if there's anything else. Imagine, say, a fence and you can see through it, but it's in front of you and the camera has to do a little. Yeah, I think I recall your side-on platformer. Just for those that don't know, I'll try and explain what Retro Game Bloke is looking for, and highly encourage this experimentation with Game Guru. It's really cool. So far we've got first-person shooters, we've got third-person, you've seen that with the Fantasy one and the Easter game. Retro Game Bloke has gone one stage further and it's created a platformer, so you could basically see the game from the side. The problem is, let's say this door was a fence, you do that, it would ruin the game perspective like that. So I suppose what you're really asking for is one more property down here which says camera lock, yes, but then underneath it camera collision lock, or disable camera collision, yes or no. And it would default to no, leave it by automatic, but if you force it to a yes, camera collision is completely switched off. So I completely understand what you're looking for. Those are my reasons for not doing it, but if you and 5 other people say yes, absolutely, spend, you know, it's not 4 hours, it's about 2 hours. But that's 2 hours where I'm not working on fixing my current dilemma, which is why characters aren't spawning when you load from a fresh game halfway across the level and some characters aren't appearing, which I think is pretty crucial if you want your save and load to go off without a hitch. There's also another thing that, if you remember, I don't know whether you've played the Let me go to it so I can give you some proper context. The Big Escape was one of the first big game levels that we created for Game Guru. That would be official. We actually even launched it on our website at one point, as I recall. And if I start that game so you can see what I'm talking about. Included in this game, about halfway through, you have to detonate 5 ammunition crates. And then when all 5 have been destroyed, then a gate can be unlocked so you can open it and move on to the next part of the level. Problem is, those 5 crates triggered a change in a lure global, and the lure globals aren't being saved at the moment.
Hey buddy, you ready to blow this joint?
Certainly am.
I can't help you with those guards.
Oh dear.
But if you can get to the extraction point, I'll pick you up from there.
Cool.
Me versus an undetermined number of bad guys? What could go wrong?
With me, couldn't get anything. Right, let me think. Let me orient myself. Right, so you come up there and you go across that bridge. Beyond that fence is 5 crates that you have to blow up. But because those are lure globals that control when you've blown them up, and that lure global isn't saved, then we have a problem. Because a lure global could be anything. Fortunately, a lure expert, someone who knows lure a lot more than me, suggested a way in which you can snapshot the global state of the lure engine, the lure system at that time, and then you can pick out the bits that you don't want to save, and then it would leave the globals that didn't exist in its normal state. They've been added by some script here, there, and everywhere. So the idea is we'll tag on a snapshot of all that global data at the end, and in theory it will remember that, so when you load it back in, it also loads in these globals that are in some sort of temporal state based on where in the game you are, and in theory I should be able to fix that issue as well. So all these issues need to be put onto the plate and then sorted out for the rest of today, and then hopefully I will have finished save and load by tonight. Then I can sort of release a beta for the weekend, and then I'm sure some people will be pleased to hear that once that's done and dusted, and that is the only feature I actually promised off the top of the voting board. There is also lots of other little tweaks and fixes that I'll show you what I'm doing. If I go to dev and then changelog, these are all the things that were fixed in addition to doing the save and load, because as I work on adding a feature, I'm constantly testing Game Guru. So in that constant test, things pop up, and rather than just say, oh dear, that needs to be done at some point, I tend to go in and fix it immediately. So remove the hard-coded headshot. It's an interesting thing, there was a hard-coded headshot detector that would multiply damage by a factor of 10, but there was also headshot detection in Lure script, the new one. But the hard-coded stuff was still in, so sometimes you'd have 2 lots of hard-coded headshot detection stuff going on at the same time. So I managed to identify that and remove it. It should be entirely script-based. That's our goal for 2016. As much script as possible, so you can customize more of your own game to make it completely unique. I'll just go through the rest because I'm sure you're sick to death of listening to load and save and all the trials and tribulations of that. Updated arrows, ammo to include ammo pickup sound effects. Yeah, it's just a little tweak to the entity in the script, because when you picked up arrow ammo it wouldn't make a sound. There was an issue where in the lower script you used character control armed to rearm characters. It wouldn't go back to armed, it would just be continuing its limbo, just walk around without the gun raised. Character control armed, he raises his gun as he patrols, whereas unarmed, the gun's not there and the arms are by his side. So that was a little fix. That was really cool. Fixed issue of adding waypoints and zones. Yeah, there was in the editor in the game, the zones kind of work fine, but scripts have the ability to scan for waypoints, paths around your level. That, through a combination of adding waypoints and zones, could get messed up. That data wasn't always reliable. Now it is. It's been fixed, so you can rely on that in your scripts 100%. Yeah, and those are just expansions on that. Issue of explodable damage from entities correctly applies to player. Yeah, basically the explode damage value was completely ignored. It would just assume everything should be damaged by 500 points times 2. So it's quite useless, really. Now, when you have a barrel that explodes with 100 damage, it will actually apply 100 damage at the epicenter, and the fall off of damage as you get further away from the barrel is also correct. So I improve that. So as you can see, there's just a handful of tweaks that you're going to get for free as you get the save and load, plus some other really cool things like FBX. Yeah, reverse the blast force because it was weirdly the wrong way around. Basically, if you were standing right in the middle of the explosion, you'd hardly move. If you was on the very outskirts of the explosion, you'd be blasted back a very long way. It was reversed, so I fixed that. Standalone, I won't bore you with those. The download store items still had a little reference to Reloaded in there, so that's been removed for the next version. There was a request, someone who didn't want to spend £4 on the Easter DLC, but really liked the idea of invisible walls. I added the invisible wall entity to the core product now, so you can actually have invisible walls, which allows you to create invisible corridors which won't let your player run off all over the map and kind of keep you within, say, a village or a corridor or whatever it is it needs to be. Some small tweaks to the Fantasy and the Easter DLC, really simple tweaks, but they will go out as soon as the version 1.13 is released. We'll ignore any standalone stuff for now, and we improved save standalone. There was a little bug introduced in 1.121, which Retro Game Block has reported. Fragmentation I've already mentioned. Blue door entity fix. You'll notice that the blue door, it's in the default assets. When you open and then close, as it finishes its close animation, it disappears for 1 frame, which made it look really crude. So that's been fixed. It doesn't disappear anymore. Big issue with opening a door and not being able to walk through it straight away. That was related to an issue with the time commands in Lua. Those have now been fixed as well. When you leave a level, I've doubled the speed of the fade. This is just to make it feel slicker, but ultimately that will be controllable by you through a script, because you might want to do different things when you terminate one level and enter another level. Now, freeze more of the game and game logic when loading a new level. Yeah, sometimes when you finish a level, the game will kind of carry on. If you looked at the Easter game and the bunny completed his game and then it sort of faded out, you'd see the bunny had move after the congratulations, you've won the level, which wasn't really friendly. So we got rid of that, and we freeze basically everything now. As soon as you won the game, you have won the game, it fades out and nothing should move after that. There's also this weird thing, if you had level 2 loaded after level 1, it would keep all the occlusion data from level 1. Horrible, horrible bug. So now your level 2s, 3s and 4s shouldn't have disappearing entities, seemingly random disappearing. It was actually using all the occlusion polygons from any previous level. It never cleared them. So after level 5 you had 5 levels of occlusion objects floating about, which wouldn't also be very good for your memory. So that was a really great fix, that. So FPS warning prompt no longer pops up all the time, because what happens is it thinks, you know, your FPS is like 1 FPS if you go onto the menu then come back. So that's been removed now, so it can't do that anymore. Yeah, sometimes you can shoot a character in the head, immediately save and reload that position, and the character think you're still being shot and it would die, which is absolutely ridiculous because, you know, you've just loaded a new game. It shouldn't do that, so that was prevented. And all the ones below are generally related to what I've already mentioned, the timing issue and the save standalone and save and load, and that's where we are right now. And as you can see, I've got an issue with spawned, and I've got an issue where the radar disappears when you go into the load menu. It shouldn't really disappear, or it should disappear when you go into the menu and then reappear when the game starts. And then of course a full battery of tests on all the sample games on the Easter game, and that will complete beta 1 with version 1.13, and that is a big step towards save and load progress being delivered into your hands at some future point. Just got an impressive list of comments from Retro Game Block. I'll just skim through it. I don't really want to read everything. Oh no, actually, it's what he's already posted. Retro Game Block says Lua is fine. That's great. Okay, so I don't have to add that extra property. Brilliant. That gives me 2 hours of my life back, which means more coding on save and load progress. Thanks for that. Thanks for the nod. Yeah, once the camera control for the player is in a Lua script, you'll be able to control literally anything. You could just hijack the camera and do what you want with it. You could do cutscenes, you could do flybys, all that cool stuff. You'll have full control of that. It would just be Lua. And a yay for exploding damage. Thanks very much. And Unclew Wolf himself says impressive list. Thanks very much. It is quite exhaustive. But, you know, sometimes people don't see that. They'll see that, oh, Lee's added save and load feature. It's about time. 2 years too late. But what they don't see is this huge slew of tweaks and fixes that go in every version. You know, and I should probably make more of the changelog every time I release an update. But I really assumed people would just go into the changelog and find it themselves. But maybe it's something I have to really bombard people with, see how much actually goes on from version to version, and why it takes so long. Not only to actually do the reproduction and testing and make sure it doesn't affect other things, but then to test it all together as something that we can release as a build. So that's version 1.13 beta 1 so far, with just a few more tweaks to go. And if you like the look of this game and you're just joining in for the first time, don't know Game Guru, this is a free game. You get Game Guru, and then this is one of the games you'll be able to get as one of the sample games, and there's 6 games to play. And hopefully that answers the question about the camera collision, which I think it does. I'm just looking at the clock. I did say it would be 30 minutes. It's now 50 minutes. And so I have a dilemma. Do I carry on for another 10 minutes to make it a nice clean round hour? Or do I end now having exceeded my 30-minute mandate by an extra 20 minutes? So I'm going to give you 2 minutes to ask any more questions if you've got them. Quite happy to answer. On or off topic, it's fine. I'm sure there's something that you're battling with your own game projects. Stuff that you would like to do in Game Guru, but you can't see a way to do it. I have the answers. I can either tell you outright, no, you cannot do that. Yes, you can do that, but it'll be hugely difficult because you have to do a lot of clever scripting. Or, no, it's absolutely impossible, even with Lua scripting. So I can give you 2 very quick answers, and it might save you a lot of time battling away. Saying that, though, there's sometimes when people create games. For example, when I saw the first 2D side-scrolling platform in Game Guru, I had to kind of stare at it for a couple of minutes because I didn't even think it was possible. So on such questions and answers like this, I might say, nope, you can't do 2D side-scrollers. Game Guru wasn't designed for that. And then a week later, the community pop up with something that I just said was impossible. So certainly don't take my words as gospel. Okay. Sparrowhawk asks, what's up next on the voting board? Great question, because it means I can jump to here. You'll find the voting board in the main Game Guru website. Go to features, drop down to community vote. And these are all the features we have yet to implement in Game Guru. I'm not shy about listing all the things that are missing in Game Guru. It also reflects just how much fun we're going to have over the next couple of years, adding features and making games with all this cool stuff. But the results as of today, now remember, if I just step back one, currently under development, save and load progress. That was the #1 feature, voted #1 feature. And that's been worked on now. As you've seen, it's nearly finished. I just need to do a few new bugs and then test it, and then you can unwrap it and eat it. But the current #1, scoring quite highly, 9,200 versus its next rival, which is 8,100. This gap was a lot closer a couple of weeks ago. I guess people are really excited about the possibility of creating their own buildings and rooms and corridors and staircases and doors and windows and things like that. I wouldn't say it's a resurrection of the segment editor, but anyone that knows FPS Creator Classic will realise some of the sheer power you can get just by painting rooms and corridors extremely quickly and having customised buildings. At the moment, as varied as our selection is, if you look at what we've got for you, we've got all these different kinds of buildings. We've got warehouses, churches, there's a buildings pack where you've got, I mean, there's more than this. This is just my dev build where I had to test these 6 categories, and I had to test them because they had insides. We released a buildings pack, but you couldn't go inside them. They were supposed to be for scenery and background items, but we got feedback saying, this is ridiculous, we want to be able to walk inside buildings. It was like, oh really? Really? So I thought, okay, you can walk inside buildings now. But then someone had to test them, and that would be Muggins here. So if I pick Skyscraper 1, Drop him down. Run here. I think we're still on our platformer thing, aren't we? Yeah. This was actually sealed building, but now you can actually walk inside them and walk around the foray. What do you call it? The entrance bit. And that's what I was testing. So you've got buildings that are you can walk inside. There's buildings which are just external things. All these sandstone ones, you can actually walk inside. In addition to that, you've got the oh, they're not here. Oh yeah, this is my dev build. I don't put all the media in my dev build because it's a bit confusing when I'm going through stuff. But I think there are a couple of buildings in Fantasy Pack, the shrines and things. The Mega Packs have buildings in as well. But the problem is, and what you'll find is, let's say I picked this building, drop it in, get rid of Wizard for now, I just want it the first person perspective. The problem is it's fixed, look. That window, that window, that window, that window. There's 2 windows up there, 2 windows up there, and a door. And that's it, you're fixed. There's not really... As soon as you drop this building in, you're instantly going to know it's Game Guru because, oh yeah, that's the building everyone has to use, or another building like it. The Easy Building Editor would essentially allow you to just paint a room this big, and then insert window, window, door, another door, and then run the game. And not only will it look like a building with the doors and windows just specified, but the collision will work. It'll be proper fast box collision. The physics will be correct. The AI of characters will be able to run through the door and out that other door. The AI would know where the doors were and how it could run around the building and run up the staircases and run up ladders up the side of a building. The enemies could run up the back ladders and then run around on the roof and then shoot down at you. That will be the power of the Easy Building Editor. And I think it's that and other comments I've made about what the Easy Building Editor could be, which has probably raised it to the #1 spot on the voting board. And at 9,200, I'll be very surprised if that has knocked off the list before then. The reason I mentioned FBX and other small animals is I've got my hands on the FBX API and it's actually not that much work. I think it actually is. Is it on the list somewhere? If it is, it's way, way down. I don't think it's even on the list. Well, that kind of makes sense then, if it's not on the list. It's a very small feature to add, but what it gives is the ability of third-party artists to bring in a lot more content, which means once it's in a format that you can use in Game Guru, you're going to get the benefit. You're going to get access to all that extra media, which means you can make more varied games with more interesting graphics in it. So it's a big power feature that won't take a long time for me to do, but will empower a lot of people out there in the third-party artist land. I've just glanced over at the chat board. It's gone. I've got a whole page of text since LOL. So we've got a couple of minutes, so I'll rattle them off, see if there's any questions. Milo 9000, what I tried to say in previous video, I wasn't really understood, would be nice. When fence or long lines of objects need to be placed, you specify a start point, drag out an end point, and the line is filled. Yeah, we had this idea, wall builder. Basically, you just drag a wall, and it would just build a wall. We kind of ignored this idea in favour of snapping stuff together. But if snapping is very quick and rapid, like ding, 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 then it could work just as well as a sort of a rubber band sort of fence maker. But after we've done the snapping and all that really cool stuff, and you still want a rubber band wall and fence maker, keep making noises about it, and eventually it will find its way to the voting board. Paramerc having problems placing a multiplayer start marker inside a building when the level starts and the player spawns near the marker, but not exactly on it. I'm doing something wrong, blah, blah, blah. Quick advice, have a look at a level called Multiplayer Camp Oasis. That places multiplayer start markers inside buildings and it does it very well. So that's a good thing to check out for more information and advice on how to place start markers and exactly where to place them. Sparrowhawk agrees with Milo 9000 on the subject of dragging a fence out with a single click. And Retro Game Bloke suggests it's part of the building editor. Could be. It depends. I still need to make some decisions on that. So going down the list near to end, Sparrowhawk. I have a multi-map where all my markers are in the building's tents, and that seems to work for me, but I haven't at the back. It might just be a case of positioning. If you've got a lot of furniture inside the building, it might, because of physics, push the player, which is a physics object, out of that building. So you need to give the player enough space inside the building. That's absolutely essential. So it's just trial and error there. And maybe try on an empty map, just so you can actually do quick iterations for your test game. Paramount's going to suggest have a mess around with it and find any issues that he might have. Sparrowhawk, have you checked the marker? Is that the right sort of height? Good. So it looks like people are providing advice within the chat session, so I don't even need to speak. Uncle Wolf himself, in your estimation, do you think there will be an update on light mapping and rendering this summer? Light mapping update of. Not sure. Highly doubtful. If we look at the voting board, I try to be as transparent as possible, but, you know, having spent years waiting for me and being dissatisfied with my choices on what I thought was important and what I coded over the last 2 years, and sensing the growing frustration of that, the voting board was born. So I am removed from blame, essentially, and I defer to your better judgment, the judgment of the majority. So being able to create buildings and interiors for buildings, bot to navigate stairs. Interpret that as a big AI overhaul. Enemies that can run around, hide behind things, climb up stairs, climb up ladders, jump off buildings, jump through windows, open and close doors. Think of it like that. It's a biggie. And I think people sense that, which is why it's got high score. Menu editing, they'll be able to customize all your standalone loading screens and menus and like that without having to go into the Windows Explorer and change all the files one by one. So, you know, the last bit that you can entirely customize to make your game truly unique. I can see why that's high on. Talking characters and quests, so rather than just shooting things, you can have allies, you can trade with people, you can go on teams together and fight some dragons somewhere and have a proper RPG style experience. I can see why that's high too. And of course a day-night cycle to have sort of an open world, it's happening and unfolding as you see it, that sort of thing. And if we step down, looking for anything that might resemble light mapping and working on light mapping, probably that's close to it, because light mapping and physically based renderings are normally mutually exclusive. You can have one or the other, and you'll notice you've got physically based rendering and we've not even got to any light mappy related thing yet. In fact, we're getting unlimited dynamic lights, that's related to the one above. Yeah, light mapping, I don't think it's going to appear on the voting board. Were it to appear on the voting board, do you think it would get a lot of votes? That's deferred rendering is another alternative to light mapping. So my gut feel is no, there won't be any great update on light mapping. If you find a bug on the light mapper, absolutely report it, and it will get fixed in amongst these kind of tweaks. These kind of that's where you're going to get your fixes for your light mapper, but not any kind of light mapping overhaul. I know what you mean. Light mapping has come up a long way. It's not just about shading polygons. It's about using environmental data to work on really clever lighting calculations and things like that. But I think that's probably going to get superseded by physically based rendering and some overall improvement to the graphics pipeline. So I think that's where you're going to get your light mapper style improvement from. Whether it's this summer, yeah, I think so. Once this summer, I'd say this winter. I'd say look towards September, October for that kind of area, for that big visual pep. Because I might get through quite a lot by then. If we can get down to... maybe that is optimistic. Physical based rendering is only 3,707. So we have to climb a little bit higher. So we'll see. We'll see. We can knock through a lot of these, and there is still a big call for a lot of visuals. Then yeah, we can sneak that in for you. Looks like I've gone over my hour, but someone snuck in one last comment. Retro Game Block is giving advice to Paramark. Wants to try the Force in-play obstacle setting in these entities FPE may cause issues with their character spawning, possibly. It's mostly for NPCs, but may affect your player as well when spawning. Just a thought. So a nice little parting piece of advice from Retro Game Bloke. And that's the end of my time. That's the end of our time together. I shall resume my rambling next week at Wednesday, 4 PM GMT, when I hope to impart more useful and valuable advice about the universe of Game Guru. If you've got any requests for what I should be talking about next week, there's a place on the forums. If you just go to forums and then go to the top one, which is product chat, you'll find I've stickied. The sticky ones are all the ones in green. Twitch sessions, please send us your requests. Just pop one in there and I will read that probably a couple of hours before the broadcast happens. As I said, this is always live, it's unscripted. I make it up as I go along, and if I encounter a bug halfway through playing my demo, then I'll laugh and you'll cringe. Or vice versa. So, until then, I shall say goodbye. Join me next Wednesday, 4 PM GMT, when we'll do it all again. So until then, I'll say, ta-ra!